Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit. And today, I'm gonna review it for you guys. A couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to review the new Lincoln Corsair, and I thought that that was the best luxury SUV that you could get for around $70,000 brand new. But, and I cannot believe I'm saying this Jeep Grand Cherokee gives that Lincoln a run for its money in some of the insane features that this includes. This has a front night vision camera. Why? Because they can. Starting out up front here on the Grand Cherokee, you're going to get full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights that double as your LED turn signals. You'll also get LED fog lights down here, parking sensors that dot the lower portion of the front end. You'll have a sensor right here for the safety system that this is equipped with. That works in conjunction with a camera at the top of the windshield for automatic emergency braking, lane keeping assist, stuff like that. And then moving further up into the grille, at the center of the 7-slot Jeep grille, you'll have a camera. That is for the 360-degree camera system that this is equipped with, and that's also able to be turned on if you're pulling into a parking spot and you want to make sure you're not about to hit the curb. That's very useful. But this isn't the night vision camera. Rather, that's actually hidden a little bit further over inside this slot of the grille. Moving underneath the hood, this is powered by a regular old 3.6-liter V6, making 293 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, and that is paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission. The EPA estimates that this gets 19 city and 26 highway, and in my testing this week, I averaged 19.2 miles per gallon. Moving to the profile of the Grand Cherokee, starting here with the wheels and tires, you'll get 275 45R Continentals around these 22-inch wheels. There's a lot going on here with the silver and gunmetal gray look, but I think it works with the rest of the styling here on the Grand Cherokee. Then you'll have a Grand Cherokee badge and a small American flag. And then coming up to the mirrors, they are gloss black with a turn signal indicator implemented in, a camera for the 360-degree camera system, a puddle light. They are also power folding and power adjusting. You also have heating incorporated into them and blind spot monitoring. So there's a lot of luxury features just in these mirrors. Moving on, you will have silver trimmed door handles here on the Summit, and then it does have keyless entry, so if you have the key in your pocket, you can tap that, it will lock the vehicle. You can put your hand behind the handle, and that will unlock it. Now, as you can see, as we move further down the profile, this has the floating roof design. That's a fairly popular trend recently in the car industry. And this is the short wheelbase Grand Cherokee. There's also a long wheelbase available, but I think I prefer the look of this short one. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Then you'll have parking sensors here on the rear, your 4x4 badge and your Summit badge, dual exhaust. You get a backup camera down here. This button right here locks the vehicle, and then pulling on this button will open up the lift gate. We'll talk about the many ways to open up the lift gate here on the Grand Cherokee in a second. But first you have your Jeep badge, LED taillights, and then there's another camera up here below the third brake light. We'll talk about that when we move to the interior, but I wanted to point it out now, give you a little sizzle. And now we have reached the many ways to open up the rear lift gate. So as I mentioned, you can pull the button on there, that will open it up. You of course can also open up the lift gate from the key fob right here. Double tap that. You also have lock, unlock, panic, and remote start here on the key fob. It's very hefty. I like the quality. But you can also hit a button on the inside to open up the lift gate. And lastly, you can swipe your foot down here and that will also give you access to the rear.
Alpha Shark will be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Hey, are you interested in winning one of the coolest Broncos ever built? Well, today I've teamed up with fundraising platform All True to give you guys the chance to win this 1966 Bronco with modern upgrades. It has the classic Bronco exterior, but it has a more modernized and luxurious interior. It's been custom built by the experts at Gateway Bronco, and it includes a third-gen Ford 5-liter engine, a Kinser engineering chassis, 18-inch billet machined wheels, a distressed Italian leather interior, Apple CarPlay plus Bluetooth audio, and more. This whole Bronco is worth over $250,000. But that's not all. If you win, you'll also receive an additional $50,000 in cash for taxes. And the best part is, this is all for charity. All the proceeds will support 6degrees.org and their mission to sustain and enrich local communities. You can enter to win this Bronco by going to alltrue.com/alphashark. And if you use the promo code ALPHA50, you can get 50 additional entries towards the Bronco. That's alltrue.com/alphashark and promo code ALPHA50. Good luck, guys.
And now, back to the video.
Moving into the rear here, you will have a handy little scraper that Jeep has included in case it snows too bad. As you can see, I just mostly got flurries for this video. You'll have a subwoofer back here. There is a 12-volt and some tie downs for cargo. This button will allow you to adjust the lift gate position. That's nice. You can kind of set where you want that to be. You can, of course, drop the second row seats. I love this little added detail. All the little Grand Cherokees of the different generations are on the rear window right here. That's a neat little Easter egg. And this side has a classic Jeep climbing up the side of that C-pillar. And now lifting this up, you will get a spare. It's not often that I see a full-size spare, but the Grand Cherokee includes it, and you get your whole kit to fix it back here as well. So that is really, really nice, and you get a fair bit of space. Moving to the interior, I never thought a Jeep Grand Cherokee could cost $73,000. But I also never thought a Grand Cherokee would have massaging seats as an option. Yes, this has massaging seats, and that might not even be the craziest feature in here. This is slam-packed with all of the latest tech in cars and luxury features. It truly is a very comfortable place to spend your time. Starting here on the door panel, this is soft touch, as is this down here. And I just want to take a second to acknowledge how nicely furnished this door panel is. The stitching is incredible. You'll have this wood grain material. It's very, very premium feeling. Down here, you will have your window controls, your mirror controls. You can just click that button and it will fold them in, and then click it back up and they will fold out again. You'll have your memory settings for the seat. There are a lot of different customization adjustment options here on the seats, including some additional leg support, which I really appreciate. Then this button up here will activate the massage functionality, and there's not just one mode. There's actually quite a few that you can cycle through, and there's different speeds. If you want it on high, medium, low, you can adjust that. And the massaging feature is also available on the passenger side. And then moving down here, you'll have your lighting controls, your electronic parking brake, and your hood popper. Then this does have an automatic adjustment for the tilting and telescoping on the steering wheel. Then while we're back here, I'll mention there are buttons here on the rear for channel changing and volume control on the other side of the steering wheel. Stellantis has hidden buttons back here for quite a long time. As you can see, there are also little paddle shifters, which is a nice inclusion. And then on the front of the steering wheel, it is very nicely stitched. leather wrapped, and you have that wood texturing continuing into the steering wheel. It's so cool. It feels so premium. It doesn't just look premium. It really does feel premium. I'll talk about that as I move through this interior. There's specifically another thing I want to highlight that just feels really well built in here. And I want to point that out because it's easy for something to look nice, but then feel really chintzy. But this feels well put together. Here on the front of the steering wheel, you will have controls for your digital gauge cluster screen, which we'll talk about in a second, and then your Bluetooth. And then over here, you will have your cruise control settings. Now, if we cycle through this gauge cluster screen, this might have like the most features of any digital gauge cluster screen I have ever done on this channel. There is so many things in here. It's not just your basic speedometer digitally, your, temperature, maybe it gives you like a different sport drive mode. There are so many things packed into here. So I will try to get to everything. There's your digital speedometer, but coming down here, the night vision is going to activate here in a second. That comes from that camera on the front. As you can see, there it is. Nothing to display right now, and also it's daytime, so that doesn't matter too much. But this is so useful at night, especially where I live, because there are a lot of deer out here, and I was even able to capture some on video well before I would be able to see them with my own eyes. This night vision camera picks them up and it highlights them yellow as they move to kind of notify you, hey, there's an animal out here and it might run across the road, and just super useful. I think it's kind of a silly feature when it's pitched, but when I actually used it this week, I was like, oh my word, this is so helpful when it comes to safety functionality. So there is a pretty tactile purpose in it. And then continuing on, your average fuel economy, 19.2, as I mentioned earlier, not terrible. And then you also have a full map display that will load here. So you can throw your digital map up here and use that. You don't have to look over at this screen. Not like it's hard to look over at this screen. As you can see, I have my CarPlay up, but it's so funny that you can also pull it up here. There is also a heads-up display that is activated from the screen, so you can turn that on and off if you want. I'll try to get the best footage that I can. You can also check your terrain status, vehicle dynamics, and your pitch and roll. Just in case you wanted to take your Grand Cherokee off-road, you can do that. Moving on here, you will have push-button start. That nice wood textured trim continues across the dashboard. And I wanted to highlight how much I appreciate Jeep not trying to overdo it with the screen here. I was pleasantly surprised that it's just a fairly sized screen in here. It's not an iPad. I mean, it actually probably is realistically the size of a normal iPad, but it's not massive. It's not taking up the entirety of the dashboard here. It does what you need it to and then some, and it's very functional. Now, there are a lot of screens in here. We'll get to the last one in a second, but I appreciate how low-key this is compared to some other vehicles in its class. Now, you'll get media you can cycle through. You do have climate controls within this screen, but you also have physical buttons, which I'm a huge proponent of. I don't love that some vehicles make you go into the screen to adjust the climate controls. A lot of the time, they do that and just make the screen larger, but I have to take my eyes off the road then to adjust the climate controls, which is fairly disappointing, and I'm not a big fan of that. But here, Jeep has included real buttons, at least on this particular model, which I really, really like. You'll get heating on the seats, you'll also get air conditioning on the seats, and you'll get a heated steering wheel. So that's very nice to see, more luxury amenities. And then moving up back to the screen, you'll have CarPlay that is very quick. It works quite well. And then you'll have some vehicle customization settings that you can go to. If you want to access your forward-facing camera without shifting, you can do that. While we're here, though, I might as well shift into reverse. This is the shifter, and you know what? Wow, well, look, it caught that pretty well. There was a car going behind me, and that was the rear cross traffic alert that activated. There's a live demonstration of what that sounds like. So shifting it into reverse here, one thing I really like about this shifter, despite it being a circular dial, you kind of get used to it pretty quick. It's very, very high quality. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's like real aluminum or some sort of metal. It feels very premium. It's not a cheap plastic piece that's just meant to look like it's high quality. It really is. So that's nice. And then moving to the cameras, you'll have a 360-degree top-down view. You have sort of a wide-angle rear view. You can go to your front view, as I mentioned before, or you can go to a full rear camera view. Now, it's a very crisp screen, but I've noticed in my testing this week that it's a little bit laggy. I don't know if that's coming through on camera, but it tends to lag a little bit, and that's quite disappointing for the price range. Now, there is a lot of technology crammed into this car, and if the worst thing I've experienced this week is a slightly laggy backup camera, that's pretty good for some of the inclusions that this has, but I still wanted to point that out. That is something I hope in the future could be adjusted, because I've been in a lot of vehicles with backup cameras that are equally as crisp, but they don't have that little jitter that you get here on the Grand Cherokee. Up at the top of the screen, you'll have some physical buttons: auto engine start stop, lane departure warning, traction control off, your hazards, rear parking sensors, you can turn those off, and then this button actually helps you parallel or perpendicular park the Grand Cherokee. It'll do it for you, but what's funny is Ford has had this technology for quite a while, and they're actually getting rid of it because nobody uses it. So I'd be interested to know if you have a Grand Cherokee or maybe even a Ford. Do you use this feature? Apparently they said that the majority of their customers don't, so they removed that feature. I think it'll be removed for this year, for 2025. But I think it's fun that it's here. So if you do want to use it, you can. I don't know when you'd ever be parking in between these old Jeeps, but I like that little inclusion there. And then turning it off, it'll alert us that it has turned that off. And then there is a button right here for the passenger screen. Yes, this is actually a screen here on the passenger side. It's sort of cleverly hidden, not just because we're getting the glare of the sky, but it's also tinted, and that allows the passenger to watch something, maybe play a video game. Yes, it's got HDMI, so you can hook up video games, and the whole time the driver can't actually see it. So that's a really nice inclusion. Apart from hooking up some sort of HDMI device, there's not a ton of functionality in the screen, but it is a cool gimmick that is included. Down here is that HDMI. Then you'll get two USBs, two USB-Cs, an auxiliary port, a 12 volt. This functions as a little charging station for your phone, and you can fold this down if you want to kind of have a complete gloss black look across the center tunnel. And then you will have your drive mode selector down here. Again, a very premium feeling button. And on this side, you actually have your air suspension adjustment. As you can see, it's lighting up right here because it's raising the air suspension. You raise me up so I can off-road better. You can adjust that up or down from the interior, and it's just very, very cool to see its inclusion. Your 4 low selectors right here, and then your hill descent control is right there. Now, in regards to this section of the car, I've found even in a week, this really collects fingerprints. It really collects dust. This piano black texture, while nice, is something that can get mucked up pretty easily. That's not necessarily a Jeep thing, but it is kind of a quality of a lot of these luxury cars. I wish this area was more of a texture like this, because I think it would stay a little bit cleaner. Now I'm going to move the key out of the way, and then popping this open, you will have 2 cup holders. And then here in the center console, you can open up the top part for a small storage area, and then opening up the lower part gives you an even larger storage area, which is nice to see. And then up here, you will have a traditional mirror. Here's proof that I film these videos like live, and I'm talking live. I don't just dub them later. That would actually be more difficult to dub these later because I'd have to hit all my marks when I'm talking about these features. But if I flick this down, it will actually activate a camera. That's the camera that was the mystery. I gave you a little bit of sizzle earlier. I always like to do that in these videos. So if you have somebody in the second row, perhaps they're taking up space, you can't see back past them, you can pop that on and you're still able to see out of the rear. And then up here you will have the controls for your lift gate. You can have your emergency contact stuff, your lights are up here, and then these are the controls for your fully panoramic moonroof. In fact, it's not actually open all the way. We can open that a little bit more. It is very nice. Always love to see that. But that pretty much wraps up the front here. There's 3 screens. You have a heads-up display, massaging seats, night vision. It truly is crazy what this includes. Moving to the rear seats, they spared no expense back here either. It is just as finely furnished. As you can see here with the door cards, front and rear, they nearly look identical. You still get that really nice wood textured material, and the stitching is still very premium. Though, here on the rear doors, you do get this nice sunshade, which is convenient. And then you have climate vents in the B pillars. And I forgot to mention this up front. You have this very nice, like, synthetic suede headliner. That's very cool. That continues even down the A pillar. And you get color matched seat belts. That is not something you see very often nowadays, but you even get them here in the back. It would be so easy for Jeep to just skimp and do black seat belts back here, but they didn't do that. I really appreciate that attention to detail. On the back of the seats, on both of them, you will have this little storage container, and then I have the front seat where I would sit at 5'9", and I'd say I have about 4, maybe 5 inches of legroom, and then maybe 3 or so inches of headroom. It's not terrible. It's fairly spacious back here. And then moving down here, you will have your own climate controls for the rear, heated and ventilated seats for the rear occupants, USB and USB-C, 2 of them, and a household outlet. So definitely a very, very nice place to be. You're not missing anything when you're back here, apart from maybe the massaging functionality, but you do have the option to recline the seats. As you can see, I have the seat in the normal position right here, but the seats I'm sitting in are actually reclined back a little bit. You can access that with this pull tab. So there is some comfort in seating position back here as well. Then you can pull this down for 2 cup holders and a nice little armrest. All right, driving the Grand Cherokee Summit, I wasn't necessarily sure what to expect with the Summit. I've reviewed, maybe it was a limited Grand Cherokee about 3 years ago, and I remember enjoying that. I thought it was a good SUV. But sometimes when I receive a press car, if I don't get sent the window sticker initially by the manufacturer, I don't ask for it. And I like to be surprised if I'm not already aware of what the vehicle includes at that trim. And so in this particular case, I didn't know what the Summit included, and I didn't even know what color this press vehicle was going to be. And it arrived, and then, since I have the vehicles for a week, I spent the first few days kind of exploring it, driving it around, and looking at all the different features. And I'm like, oh, this has massaging seats. Wow, okay, cool. And oh my word, this has night vision, like that Grand Wagoneer I did a few years ago. It is very fun to do it that way. And then When I'm about halfway through the week, I start compiling things for the full review, and then I look into more of the features that I may have missed on my initial peripheral exploration of the vehicle. But I could say I'm really, really impressed with this Grand Cherokee. I didn't know that a vehicle in Jeep's lineup could be this opulent. I think this is an excellent vehicle. I was really impressed with the ride quality overall. I think it handles curves very well, and the cornering is excellent. The braking is very good. It's super smooth overall, and I think that air suspension has a lot to do with it. It actually will automatically adjust as you're driving for the best aerodynamics, so it'll even move when it's in motion, which is very neat. And I think this plays with the big dogs. I think this is more akin to a Cadillac than a Chevy, and as I mentioned before, more like a Lincoln than a Ford. I was really, really impressed so far this week with my time inside the Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's come a long way. I've been in a lot of Grand Cherokees over the years of different generations, and they've been fine. Like, there's no expectation of luxury, but I feel like this Summit really, really ups the luxury game. Let me know in the comments section. I'm doing that a lot in this video. I'm asking you guys questions, but I want to be more in touch with the audience. Is a Grand Cherokee the type of vehicle that you'd expect to be luxurious? I feel like I don't see a lot of ads for Grand Cherokees like this, and especially nothing really pushing how feature-packed this is. I feel like this is generally advertised as more of a family hauler SUV than anything, so I'm impressed with what it includes. Well, that's just about going to wrap up my review of the Grand Cherokee. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Before I go, though, I'd like to mention that I'm a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I would love to be able to pray for you. You can leave those in the comment section below. And lastly, I'd like to close out on a scriptural reading. This week, I'm in the book of James, chapter 5, verse 16. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. All right, guys, take care. And remember, no matter what vehicle you drive, I hope it lasts you a long time and it serves you well. I'll see you next time.